The reason we're here today is because on Sunday, October 11, 2020, I worked for 13 hours. My regular work week is Monday through Friday, so Sunday is not my regular work hours. I submitted a timesheet. I wasn't paid for the time. I asked for a reason why, and I wasn't given any, so I brought the issue to the attention of the Personnel Committee, and I'd like to thank the Personnel Committee because I got some feedback. And I'd like to address a couple of the reasons for refusal to pay. And the first one through a story. This past Monday, I misplaced my work phone and the battery went dead. I called it and it went right to voicemail. So what I did was I called the police, okay? No one told me to. And I let them know, I said, hey, I got an issue with my phone, my work phone. If you need to contact me, you could get me on my personal cell phone or you could call my home. No one told me to do that, but I did it. The next morning, Tuesday morning, I got a text and it said salt needed. And that means, they want me to come in and salt. So at 5 a.m. I got the text, salt needed. So I responded and I went in and I salted the town. Now, when my supervisor, Cliff Hoffman, came in, I told him what happened. I said, listen, I had an issue with my phone. I called the police. So they forwarded the calls to my personal cell phone and I was able to respond. Now, I'm contractually obligated to respond. I get a quarter an hour for an on-call status, and what that means at minimum is when the phone rings, I've got to answer it and evaluate what needs to be done, or if I want to participate, okay? So the reason I told you that story is you would think that's the actions of a responsible employee. You know what I mean? I didn't need to call Cliff and ask him if I could forward my calls, or if the police could forward the calls or call me in my cell phone. I just did. And, I told Cliff about it afterwards. Why bother your supervisor over an issue like that? And the reason I tell you that story is one of the reasons for refusal to pay, it says you voluntarily and unnecessarily forward your work calls to your personal phone, which was not done at the direction of any borough employee. And if you know the culture around here, that's a baiting situation there. I'm not a little baby. If something goes wrong with my phone, I could take care of it. I don't need to be told what to do. I think they're looking for me to blame my boss, say that, well, he, whatever, or something, bring another person in and confound and confuse the issue. But the issue is, I have an agreement to respond when I'm called. And the way I do that is I got to make sure that I'm accessible. And if you call my home, my work phone, or my cell phone, I just need to be available. And I have been. It's a 5-year deal. I've done it for over 4 years now reliably. Okay, the second issue, it says, as a result of that action, me voluntarily and unnecessarily forwarding my calls, which, like I said, I thought was the responsible thing to do. I had an issue with my phone. Okay, so I forwarded it, but it's not really an issue. As a result of this action, you involved yourself in borough matters while you were on vacation, which isn't true. It was a Sunday. I wasn't on vacation on Sunday. Vacation that did not need or require your undertaking because other employees were already assigned those tasks. What's really odd about that is I was called 237 times when the overtime administrator thought I was on vacation, okay? And it happened over a 13-hour period. So you have an overtime administrator who's sets up a system that's calling an hourly employee 237 times, knowing that in their mind at least, I was on vacation. I'm contractually obligated to respond to those calls because I get an extra quarter an hour to do that. So you should, a reasonable person would say, well, this guy, me, is a responsible person. You know, you don't need to tell him to do things, you know, to assure that he's able to be contacted, all right? So he's a responsible person. And, you know, you're calling that responsible person on a Sunday over a 13-hour period 237 times. Now, some people may call that harassment, but at minimum, these aren't reasons to refuse to pay me. Again, the personnel committee, the response and reasons for refusal do not say that I didn't do work and that the borough, you know, didn't benefit from what I did. They're saying that there's some procedural things here that don't really add up to anything, and those are the types of responses I got. So that's why I'm bringing it to the next level in the council, and I'm hoping that you'll find some value in what I did, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. You don't call an hourly employee 237 times over a 13-hour period on a Sunday if you don't need their help and you got things covered. And things weren't covered. They were not covered. The bulk water system was down. The community water supplies went offline. Things were not in a good situation. In essence, I did the work of the administrator. Emergency alarm monitoring. I made the decision to deploy an hourly asset. I deployed that hourly asset who turned the bulk water system around, brought it back online. The community water supply tanks were draining rapidly, brought the sources of supply back online, started filling the tanks. And I followed up to make sure that things were turned around and heading in the right direction. These are all duties of the overtime administrator. So I functioned as the overtime administrator during this situation. And I really did a great job, and I deserve to be paid the money that I earned. So I wrote something up a little bit ahead of time. I have a meeting scheduled for March 1 with the council, and I'm going to send this out ahead of time. And read it now quickly. We're here because I worked 13 hours on Sunday, October 11th. I received 237 emergency action alarms over a 13-hour period. I'm contractually obligated to respond to those. I have evidence of all the calls. The fact that I did work and the council derived value from that is not the issue. The work was done. I properly submitted a timesheet. The pay for my work was neither approved or disapproved. It just wasn't paid. During the events, I contacted my supervisor. So I started getting alarms on a Sunday, and I contacted my supervisor, Cliff Hoffman, via text. So I have evidence I contacted Cliff, or attempted to contact Cliff via text and request relief from this situation, okay? I didn't get a response. So in the absence of a response, I did the responsible things. I continued the monitoring. In fact, I upped my game. You know what I mean? I go, whoa. I'm not getting a response, so I had to be even more vigilant now. I've been down this road. I continued to do my job as contractually agreed in a written deal. I held at my end of the deal. After doing the work, I turned in my timesheet Although the overtime administrator was missing during the emergencies, the administrator flagged my timesheet. And again, I asked for a reason why I wasn't paid and I wasn't given any until I took it to the personnel committee. From my perspective, the overtime administrator is using hourly employees as a scapegoat for not administering the overtime. I did the job of the overtime administrator. Simply stated, I monitored the emergency situation remotely, deployed an hourly person that was paid, and then followed up to make sure that the work was done. Our top administrative water employee set up this call up, call out, call in system procedure, and the administrator is totally insulated from accountability for it and didn't really help at all in this situation. And that's not a good situation. The person that's supposed to be responsible for this wasn't there when I needed help, okay? So that's your situation. Additionally, the system that's set up right now can't be explained. You can't really explain it. It doesn't make sense. And it's unfair to the workers and it's unfair to council. The reasons that were eventually developed for not paying me are really excuses by the administrator for not doing their job. Okay? Especially important, relationships are built when you hold up your end of the deal. And I held up my end of the deal. I'm a relationship builder. And relationships are broken down and even destroyed when you make a deal and you don't hold up your end of the deal. I did the work. Okay? Your end of the deal is I need to be paid. In this situation, my behavior was role model. I would love to have an employee that did what I did. Now, if you would like, and I would make this recommendation, okay? I'm going to step out a little bit here. If you would like Cliff to administer the overtime program, the going rate for that work is $250 a week. And, you know, there's value to doing that, okay? And that's the going rate. And also, as it's been a past practice, he's got to have an automobile. If you want someone to respond at the salary level that has competent, capable, qualified, accountable, okay, takes the job seriously, you got to give him the tools to do his job. Like in the past, he's got to have a vehicle so when these alarms go off, you know, he has the option of getting the car and come in and cut down on overtime and rectify it without losing money, okay? Can't ask a person to drive in from Hughesville and lose money to respond to emergency alarms. Have a little respect. Our current administrator really doesn't get involved other than relying on these automated alarms and then tricking council into breaking the deal by not paying for the work that's done. You can't derive value from doing that. I did the work, there's value in that. You can't derive value from I do the work and you refuse to pay me and say you're saving the borough money. I did the work, there's value in it. No one said there was no value in it. And again, in summary, I held up my end of the deal and I did my duties. I did the work. I submitted an accurate timesheet. The situation is my timesheet has neither been approved or disapproved. And I'm requesting that you approve the timesheet. Sign off on it. So I'm paid. Okay, what the agreement says. Hold the administrator accountable for deploying me if it was not necessary. If it was not necessary, I shouldn't have received the 237 calls over a 13-hour period on a Sunday. Correct the call-out procedure. Okay, let's correct it so that hourly people are treated fairly and all have an equal opportunity to work. That's not even happening. It's not even close. And it says, thank you for your consideration, David D. Nicola. I'm going to send this out to your president first. And so there's no surprises. And then I'm going to send it out to the rest of the council members. If you read it beforehand, we're going to save a lot of time at the meeting. I like the meetings to go quick. And appreciate your consideration. If you have any questions, you could call me at any time. I'll leave my cell phone with the email I'm going to send out. Thank you very much.